Okay, so you've got your paper divided into 12 squares, like this, and we're going to put one organelle in each of the boxes. Okay, remember that an organelle is just the parts that go inside of a cell. All the specialized parts, each organelle does a different job. So the first one is cell membrane. So in your first box, write cell membrane. And you need to write the word that goes with it, our one or two word phrase that helps us remember what it does. So for this one, it's the gatekeeper. So remember, the cell membrane has the job of deciding what gets to come into the cell and what gets to leave the cell. Okay? There's receptors in the cell membrane, and when something comes up, if the cell membrane decides that if it's allowed to come in, then it lets that molecule through. Okay? If not, it blocks it out. Same with stuff trying to leave the cell. The cell membrane decides if something gets to come out or not. It's made up of these phospholipids. It's called a phospholipid bilayer. So it's made up of these fats in this double layer, and it's real squishy and fluid, and it moves around a lot. And so you also need to draw a picture that reminds you of the cell membrane. If you want to draw an actual picture of what it looks like, okay, you have these heads, and there's two fatty molecule chains that comes from each one, and it creates this double layer. Or if you just want to draw a cell with an arrow to point to the outside and show that it's on the outside, however you want to do it. But you need to remember that the cell membrane is the part on the outside. It controls what gets to come in or leave the cell. It's made of these lipids, these fatty acids, and it moves around. It's very fluid. And then we need to make a note that a cell membrane is in both a prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell. So I'm just going to write P for prokaryotic, E for eukaryotic. So we find them in both prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. All right. In our next square, we have a cell wall. So a cell wall is obviously shares some characteristics with the cell membrane. But the cell wall goes outside of the cell membrane. All cells, every single cell in existence has a cell membrane. That fatty, squishy layer that controls what goes in and out. Not all cells have a cell wall. Some of them do. If it does have a cell wall, the reason is for support and strength. Okay, it protects the cell. It makes it stronger. Some cells don't need that. Okay, cells inside of you, you have a whole body that is made for support. You have skin that protects your outside. You have a skeletal system that helps you stay upright and move around. So animals don't need cell walls. We have a whole system in place. Plants need cell walls, though. They don't have skeletons. They don't have bones. They don't have anything. If plant cells just had that squishy, mushy cell membrane, a plant wouldn't be able to have a stalk. It wouldn't be able to stand upright. It would just be like a pile of mush. So plants have cell walls. Each cell is almost like a block, and they build on top of each other, and they're able to have that real rigid support system. Prokaryotic cells, our bacteria cells, all have a cell wall because they're all by themselves. They don't have anything else to support them, any other kind of protection. So they all have a cell wall. So for a cell wall, you can draw however you want to draw it. I'm going to draw a plant cell. The dotted line is my cell membrane because everything has a cell membrane. But this extra strong layer on the outside, that's my cell wall. Okay? And I find it in all prokaryotic cells and in some eukaryotic cells, like plants. Okay, so that's what needs to go into your box for cell wall. All right, then we have cytoplasm. Everything has cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is the stuff inside. Okay, the filling. That's the word you need to remember, the filling. Cytoplasm is mostly made of water. It's about 80% water, but it has a different consistency than water. Okay, it's jelly-like, so that all the organelles, all the stuff inside the cell, is able to maintain a position where they need to stay. Okay, the cytoplasm kind of helps suspend everything. So for my picture, I'm just going to draw a cell that has a nucleus and some other stuff in there. But the cytoplasm is just the inside. It's the filling, the stuff in the middle. Lots of water. There's also some nutrients, stuff like that in there, but it just supports all of the organelles, fills up the cell. It's in all cells. So all prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. All cells have cytoplasm. All cells have cytoplasm. Okay, next we have a nucleus. All cells do not have a nucleus. For nucleus, the word I need to remember is control. My nucleus controls the cell. All right? It's a specific organelle where all of the DNA is stored. The chromosomes, the DNA, it's all stored within this nucleus. The nucleus has its own membrane around it. It keeps all the chromosomes in there, and it controls everything that happens in the cell. It tells all the other organelles what to do and when to do it and how much to do it. It controls all the processes that happen in the cell. So that's my nucleus, right? It's where my DNA is. So prokaryotic cells do not have a nucleus. No nucleus in prokaryotic cells. Only eukaryotic cells have a nucleus. Only my eukaryotic cells. Okay? Mitochondria. This one you're going to split. So in your box, divide this box in half. We're going to have mitochondria and chloroplast in the same box. So you can divide it however you want. I'm going to put a slash down the middle of mine. So my mitochondria gives me energy. That's the word that you need to remember. Mitochondria take the food that we eat, okay, all that food that gets broken down, they take that food, like the glucose that we get from our carbohydrates, and they change it into ATP. ATP is the energy that your cell needs to run. It's like little packets of energy that get distributed all throughout your cell, but ATP is the fuel that runs your cell, all your cells, okay? They kind of are oval-shaped, kind of look like a bean, and they have these layers of membranes in there that are all folded up, kind of look like that. But they make ATP, and ATP is what powers all your cells. Okay, and these are only in eukaryotic cells, not in prokaryotic. Same category is going to be our chloroplast. The thing that you need to remember there is sun energy. So plants don't eat. Since they don't eat, there's no food to break down. If there's no food to break down, there's nothing to give the mitochondria to change into ATP. So instead, they get their energy from the sun. They soak in sun energy, light energy from the sun, and they go through a process called photosynthesis, and they create ATP that way. Because plant cells still have to have ATP. All cells run on ATP. But for a plant, chloroplasts are green. and they have these little kind of, they're like discs that are stacked up inside of them. Okay, and the chloroplast makes ATP for the cell. And these are only in eukaryotic, but specifically only in plants. They're not in all eukaryotic cells. They're only in plants. Okay, so that's our energy box. And we have ribosomes. Ribosomes make proteins. Proteins are super, super, super important. All enzymes are proteins. All cells have to have enzymes. Okay, they lower the activation energy. They make chemical reactions happen faster. All cells have to have protein. So all cells have ribosomes, prokaryotic and eukaryotic. All cells have ribosomes. Ribosomes have these two parts to them. And in between the two parts, there's this string of code. It's a code that tells what order the amino acids need to be in to make the correct proteins. So as this ribosome reads this code, as this strand of code goes through the ribosome, it tells it what order, and then the ribosome goes and pulls in the correct amino acids and puts them together in a big long chain. And when it's all done, it breaks off, folds up, and you get your protein. All cells, all of them, prokaryotic and eukaryotic, all cells have ribosomes. Next is the endoplasmic reticulum. Endoplasmic reticulum. We usually just call it the ER because endoplasmic reticulum is quite a mouthful. This one you can think of as the factory. That's the word that you need to remember that goes with it. You can think of it as the factory. This one's kind of hard to draw. They're these little flattened, kind of sac-looking things. Okay. The top part of it is called the rough ER. It's called the rough ER because it has all these bumps on it. It looks rough, almost like sandpaper. All those bumps are ribosomes. We know that ribosomes make protein. So the whole top half of the ER is the rough ER, and it makes protein. The bottom half is nice and smooth. There's no bumps on it. It has a nice smooth appearance, and it makes lipids. It makes fats. So you have your rough ER, you have your smooth ER. The top part makes protein. The bottom part makes lipids. But this is like the factory. It produces stuff. This is only in eukaryotic cells. Prokaryotic cells do not have this. No ER in our prokaryotic cells. Only our eukaryotic. Once we've made stuff in the endoplasmic reticulum, those things go to the Golgi. You hear it called the Golgi body or the Golgi apparatus. But the Golgi apparatus or the Golgi body packages things up. Okay. Gets it all ready to go. It modifies it, so if there's any little changes that need to happen, it finishes it up, gets it all perfect, packages it up into a nice, neat little package, and gets it ready to send off to other parts. It, again, kind of looks like flattened little sacs, but there's no smooth and rough parts. Just looks like that. It's near the endoplasmic reticulum, and it's only in eukaryotic cells.